the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast, the official podcast of Football Italia. I'm Carlo Garganeti, joined as always by Nima Tavali. On today's show, we will react to Spain's victory at Euro 2024, beating England in the final 2-1. A deserved victory for the best team at the Euros, but the general consensus is that this has been one of the worst international tournaments ever. Has football declined, and is there less quality today compared to 20, 30 years ago, let's say? We're going to debate that as we close off the end of the Euros. In club football, we will honour Ciro Immobile as he leaves Lazio as an all-time legend to join Besiktas. Alvaro Morata looks like, following on from winning the Euros, he is set to join Milan, while Joshua Zirkzee, who had seemed set to join Milan, has signed for Manchester United from Bologna. We also have, and I know Nimo is going to love talking about this, the craziest Calcio story maybe of all time, as a Roma fan / YouTuber is wrongfully named as the attempted assassin of Donald Trump. Yes, that is absolutely true. It is the most insane
that
story.
That sentence is just, the more I say it to myself, the more
I know. It's just insane. What is the world come to?
Like we live in a simulation.
I know, we really do. We really do. We really do.
That sentence is so bizarre. Like it's just...
And the thing is, especially when you find out who the actual Roma YouTuber is, and you know his background, it is even more bizarre. But we'll get to that, and Nima will definitely be the best person to explain all this because trust me. Right, so we have that. That is definitely worth looking forward to. We'll also have our usual Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we usually do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including a weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday where we answer all of the questions from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. You can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify. We'll provide the link in the description. It's the same price, the same terms. And for all of you that do listen on Spotify, Apple and iTunes podcasts, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating, give us a follow and a like. And also subscribe to us on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is growing so fast. We're now pushing on 3,000 subscribers. So yeah, it's really, really grown, and we do good content on there as well. So thank you everyone that has supported us on YouTube. All of the above really helps us to grow and do more quality content for you guys. Okay, so let's get into today's show and start off with the end of Euro 2024. So, Spain win the Euros. They beat England 2-1 in the final in Berlin on Sunday evening. A late goal from the substitute Oyarzabal gives Spain a deserved win. And Nima, this was the right winner of Euro 2024, wasn't it? Spain were the best team in the tournament.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. Spain were consistently the best team in this tournament. They showed that from pretty much from the first minute until the last, that they were the best team. But as we know, sometimes the best team doesn't always win the tournament, but here it did. I think just like Italy 3 years ago, they were the best team. There's no doubt about that. And they deservedly won, and it was they managed to, I think a little bit Southgate's tactical deficiencies were really put on display after a very good first half by England, where they managed to limit and curtail Spain and keep them safe, not allowing them to harm them, and also stood up really well, absorbing their pressure, their press really well. But then, when you move Nico Williams from one wing to the other, you centralize Lamine Yamal a little bit more, you take off Rodri, you put in, the match winner, and then you create these numerical advantages in midfield where England's, well, 4 midfielders were always outnumbered 6-4, with three, 4 players on either side of them, and then just sawing through and playing past them. That was the tactical change that Fuentes made, and that was the one that decided it, because after that, Spain dominated completely, and they broke England, ripped England apart, and that's how the first goal came. And I think England's equalizer was a good goal, but it was hardly, patterns of play, if you know what I mean. You think it was more of a chance that it kind of ended up, winning the ball there and then harming Spain like that. Good finish though. And then a horrible mistake, I think, by the English defense, who we had questions about going into the tournament. In the 80 something minute, you can't be late to a ball like that. You just can't. You have to win that. You have to be first into that challenge. You have to be switched on. And I think the individual quality of Stones and others showed that they're not as good as some English defenders of yesteryear, to put it that way.
Well, it was the first time they were tested really in this tournament. I think it's a victory for football in this tournament, as we'll come on to in our next segment, which we'll do a really deep dive on. Spain were one of only 2 of the big teams to really show quality in this tournament. The other being Germany, who I think actually were unlucky to lose to Spain. I think Spain overall were the right winners of this tournament, but I actually think Germany maybe deserved to win that game. Bit like Italy 3 years ago, isn't it? Yeah. That Italy were the deserved winners of the tournament, but actually maybe deserved to lose to Spain. Yeah. So that's tournament football for you. But I think they were the right winners. It was good for football, because if this England team I really feel for my English friends. Two finals in a row. However, those games and those tournaments went. That's horrible. It's heartbreaking. But if for football as a whole, if this England team had won the tournament, playing the way they have, with the route that they've had, I mean, they've played no big teams to get to the tournament, to get to the final. They've been. I think if you actually look at how long they've been ahead in 90 minutes during this tournament, I think it's like. I'm just trying to think. I think just the Serbia game, after the first game against Serbia, I don't think England, only the Denmark game for a short while. Other than that, I don't think they've been ahead in 90 minutes for the whole tournament. I mean, late goals. I mean, they've shown resilience, they've shown team spirit, but they've been awful this tournament. And
no one can say that England has been good this tournament.
No,
it would be completely misguided. And I really think it's time to move away from Gareth Southgate now. I think he's been 10 years? Has he been there now?
8 years, yeah.
8 years. Yeah. I mean, it's been quite a few tournaments. He's shown what he can do. He can get them to this stage, but he can't bring them over the line. And I think being able to play to your strengths and limit your opponent's weaknesses or strengths rather, and play to your limit your weaknesses by limiting the opposition's ability to harm you, is something Italian football is traditionally very good at. But Gareth Southgate, to me, just does not have what you need in order to win as well. You need quality, yes, and he has quality, bucket loads of it in attack, but the problem is that there's no idea. They look completely confused when they're trying to attack, and that is a concern. And I don't think he's the right man to unlock the incredible potential. Because again, Saka, Kane, Bellingham, Foden, you have to make that work. You should be able to make that work, even if you want to play deeper and defend deep and whatever. But you still should be able to create when pushing forward, and not just vibes. And here guys, here lads, have the ball, have some fun.
I liked what's his name, the Man United YouTuber Goldbridge. He called England Moments FC, which is basically that's what they've been in this tournament.
True.
It's true.
Yeah, that's what they've been. I mean, Jude Bellingham, nobody embodies that better than Jude Bellingham, who's had a fantastic season, horrible tournament, and had one moment of magic.
Yeah.
Or one or two even. But I mean,
that's unsustainable. You know, if you look at all the goals that England have scored in this tournament, pretty much all of them have been after that first game. You know, they've been mostly like XGs of like 0.1. That's unsustainable. You know, you can't. You know, again, the first shot on goal against Switzerland, they scored. In this game, first shot on goal, they scored. You know, you can't. That's just unsustainable. But I do think, you know, away from Southgate, we also do need to look at the players as well, because, you know, it can't always be the manager. And this is you know, having, you know, been born and grown up in England, you know, I've seen it. The manager always get the criticism for 30 years, over 30 years. It's always the manager that gets the criticism.
Yeah, but that's because they've got that agenda, don't they? I mean,
it is partly to do with the agenda, but you've got to look at the players. I mean, the players were abysmal. I mean, you know, I've said it before. Declan Rice, I've been saying for years, is the most overrated player in world football. This tournament, I think, for those that were fighting against that, I think even they've now started to see just how overrated Declan Rice is, because Rafael van der Vaart, I mean, my God, did you see the quotes on him? He absolutely tore into him. I mean, this guy, he just passes sideways and backwards. He cannot
sideways dick. That's what I call him. Sideways dick.
He can't receive the ball on the turn. He can't receive the ball on the turn. He can't play under pressure. He moves in 90 degrees angles like a robot, and he gets dominated by quality ball controlling players like the Spanish. Team, you know, and he showed that in this tournament.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened in the second half. I thought he stood up well in the first half when England were balanced. But as soon as that tactical change came, where you moved wings, swapped Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, you inverted Lamine Yamal a little bit more, you took off Rodri, and you put on, I can't ever pronounce his name properly.
Zubimendi was really good. Really good, because he started breaking lines. But I actually think that was a tactical thing as well, because Foden was man marking Rodri in the first half. When Rodri came off, and it must have been an injury, because I mean, he's the best centre mid in the world. When he came off, Foden stopped man marking his replacement, Zubimendi, and as a result, that created freedom for Zubimendi to push up, have the space, and basically create that extra man in midfield.
That's exactly what I mean. That's exactly what I mean.
You know, that is partly a tactical thing, but also if we look at the players, you know, you can blame the manager and say, we didn't play to, you know, for example, England didn't play to Kane's strengths, not having the fast wingers, you know, but also, you know, the top players make it work. In the real world-class players will find a way to make it work. And Rice, just not good enough, overrated. Foden, I'm sorry, but Phil Foden, 007, 7 games, 0 goals, 0 assists. What has he ever done for England, Phil Foden? Nothing. Never does anything.
The problem is, I really think that if you want to get the most out of Foden and Bellingham, and you really should find a way to make it work, you really have to play Bellingham deeper, and you have to play Foden as a 10. And okay, then if you have Declan Rice, Declan sideways, you can have Declan sideways if you've got Bellingham next to him. But you know, and then you can put someone on the left wing, whoever you want to.
I don't think I agree that's the only solution, but we had that when England were chasing the game when they equalised. That's how they were. But then they were completely just overrunning midfield afterwards, and that's how they actually Spain scored the second goal, because England's centre midfield was just completely. You could put a London bus through it. It was that open.
It was open, but I think that by that time the game was kind of very open itself, because you know that goal, the opening goal.
Yeah, the point I'm coming to, Nima, is that I think that Bellingham will have to develop his game in order to be a centre midfielder, because I don't think he's. The issue that I have with Bellingham, he's still very, very young, right? And I think he's got an elite mentality for a player of 21 now.
Crazy.
Incredible elite mentality. He's got some great qualities. He's a great finisher. He's got a great shot. He's great in the air. He can shoot. his understanding of making late runs into the box is better than anyone. But
he's got like this ballerina kind of technique. He's a big guy, but he's really good at small spaces.
But
too,
I'm going to say this: he is also, I think he's overrated by some people in terms of what he can do and what he can't do. He cannot, and this is a problem that English midfielders have nearly always had. Nearly always, only probably can count on one hand players that can actually do this. English midfielders cannot control the game, dictate the game, set the tempo, dominate the centre of the midfield. They can't. And Bellingham is just another example. He cannot do that. He's a supporting actor. He decorates the game. He's not the leading actor of the game. And this is the problem with Bellingham. He's almost like a rich man's Frank Lampard in that sense. He's great at making those late runs into the boxes, to the box, but he cannot control the game. So if you stick him in centre midfield, or if you stick him at a number 10, and that's been shown throughout the tournament. I know he's been tired a little bit, but that's also shown for Real Madrid, where Ancelotti has been playing him almost as a striker because he realises he cannot. He's not. That's not what he's good at, and that's where Bellingham has been overrated, and that's why I think it might be an issue fitting Bellingham and Foden in the same team, unless Bellingham can develop his game to be able to play in centre midfield deeper, which I don't think he can at the moment. At the moment, he can't, but he's young. Maybe he can in the future. So I think that there are some tactical issues which I don't necessarily blame on Southgate, because I think it isn't easy getting all these players into the same team, partly because I think some of these players have been overrated as to what exactly they can do for England. And I think that was shown in this tournament. Southgate is obviously an average manager. We know that. We know that he's an average manager. But I think that some of these players have been really vastly overrated, I think.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's whether they've been overrated or underrated. I mean, for me, the problem is there that it's there for everyone to see. Now, whose fault is it? How do you address it? That's that you have to kind of. I don't think it's just one straight answer. But for me, looking at that game in isolation yesterday, I see an England that defended really well, stood up well, absorbed really well in the first half, but then and Spain were getting frustrated and annoyed. But then Spain changed things around, and with Zubimendi coming in, pretty much at half time. I mean, after Rodri's injury, that's a more attacking minded substitution, and because it made them feel like, okay, we'll sacrifice a little bit defensively, and we'll go for it a bit more, and they created these numerical advantages. Like I said, on either side of the English midfield, there were 3 Spanish players on either side, and they passed through them, soared through them, and that's how the first goal came.
I think also
Southgate had no response to that at all whatsoever.
Yeah. I think also
that's
Nima,
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I also think Nima that at some point you can be solid defensively, which England were in the first half, but at some point you have to be able to create play and make chances and keep the ball. And England couldn't do that. And they haven't been able to do that throughout this tournament. No. And that's why I also think it's a victory, is a victory for football, because generally, that is the kind of football that has been rewarded. Again, we're going to come on to whether football's declined in a little bit in a minute. But England, just their chance creation in this tournament was absolutely abysmal. And in that first half, even though they were solid, what did England do? They barely got in. They barely got anywhere close to the penalty. I think Kane had one touch the entire game in the Spain penalty area before coming off. I mean, so when that is your level of chance creation, and when you're always chasing the ball, I think Spain had 65% of the possession. When you're chasing against a team as good as Spain, eventually you're going to tire, and eventually it's going to tell. And I think in the second half, that also was part of the case. I think Spain was so good in the second, so dominant second half, and they should have killed off the game before that equals. They had like 3 or 4 absolutely clear chances. But what I want to ask you now, just to finish off on Spain, Nima, is this Spain team, obviously, there's been some comparisons to the 2008 team that won the Euros and then went on to dominate international football, win the next 2 tournaments. Is this a Spain team that can maybe do that? What do you think? Is this a Spain team that can create some kind of dynasty, and that Italy, for example, should be, looking at Spain as being like the team to beat going forward? What do we think?
I think Spain, you look at, Rodri's 28. He's got a good couple of years in him. Pedri, when he returns, Gavi, they've got some players, I think.
Olmo, the two wingers.
Yeah, Fabian Ruiz is 28. Nico Williams was like 12. Lamine Yamal is 11. So I mean, it's like they've got youngsters.
Yamal's dad. Do you know how old Yamal's dad is?
How old is he?
34. How scary is that? How old does that make you feel? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But I do think they have problems in defense. Nacho Fernandez 34, Dani Carvajal 32, Laporte 30, Jesus Navas. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like
older than Yamal's dad.
Older than Yamal's dad, literally. So, they do have problems in defense. I think. So I do think that I don't see what that Spain team did was there was a world-class player in every position, essentially. If you look at it, at that Spain from Fernando Torres, 2008, 2010, 12. I mean, that was every single position. They were spoilt with world-class players.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to open up a dynasty like that. But I do think that they have positioned themselves as, together with Germany and also France, once they get rid of Deschamps, as the three main contenders from Europe to fight for titles now. Yes, I do think that. I think they showed maturity as well in key moments, and the fact that they're much more direct now also kind of shows that they're also developing their football. They have their identity, yes, but they also develop tactically, and I think time waits for no man. You can't just keep playing triangles, forever. You can't play. You have to develop, because at some point, your opposition will find you out. And I think we saw that in that final. They really hit a brick wall in the first half, made some really interesting tactical changes, then completely dominated the midfield, and deservedly won. So it's an interesting one, but I got to say, I have to, having watched Copa America and Euros, I don't really see anyone dominating, because I think it's like.
Well, that brings us on nicely, Nima. That brings us on nicely to something that I want to discuss in depth here. See, I put out a tweet about a week, 10 days ago, which went completely viral. It got about 6 million views. I'll read out the tweet. What I wrote was, Euro 2024 is the worst quality Euros or World Cup in my lifetime. All the big teams except Spain and Germany have been unwatchable. Where are the superstars, the attackers, the dribblers, the patterns of play? Football has declined massively the last 20 years. Players, brackets, robots, are fitter. That's it. Now, this sparked numerous debates elsewhere, and the replies to my tweet, almost kind of a little bit surprisingly for me, almost unanimously, everyone was in agreement with me. Honestly, there was very, very few people who actually responded and said, no, football hasn't declined. Football is better, or football is the same as it was in the past. Pretty much everyone was in agreement that football, if not necessarily that this is the worst Euros, but that football has really, really the quality. And we're talking about the quality of football here. We're not talking about whether you enjoy it or the entertainment so much, because that's more subjective. We're talking about the quality of the teams, the quality of the players, the depth of certainly among the big teams, I would say. So what I want to do now, Nim, is I want us to answer this question and debate it really. Has the quality of football declined as we are now compared to, let's say, the 2000s, the 1990s, the 1980s? Let's say those decades, from modern times. So what I'm going to do is what we usually do is we're going to break it down into some subheadings, let's say, and go through each area and try and answer the question. So first of all, I want to look at, are there less superstars today and less world-class players today compared to 30 years ago? What do you say to that, Nima?
Look, superstars. There's always going to be stars of football. For me, it's about technical ability. I think it's undisputable. It cannot be disputed. There's no discussion that the level of technical, the overall level of technical skill has declined dramatically the last 2 decades. I don't think there's any debate about that. It is football has become like ice hockey. I've seen this in other sports, in ice hockey as well. The technical players, the skilled players have all pretty much disappeared, as the NHL, which is the, juggernaut of ice hockey, has decided they want system players. They want robots that can follow a system. And that's exactly what's happened to football. It's all system players and specific roles, and you see it all over Europe. Denzel Dumfries would not even have played in the Championship 20 years ago. Look at the career he has.
Thought you'd bring him up.
No, but like it's a fantastic example. He has won so many trophies. This guy wouldn't even win a Dutch Cup.
Robotic athletes.
Yeah, robotic athletes. They all are like that. And it's I think Jude Bellingham is a fantastic talent. I think he's technically very skilled. But he would not have been able, technically, he wouldn't have been anything 20 years ago. And he's one of the biggest stars in the world right now. And I think that on an individual technical level, I don't think there's even a debate.
No.
I honestly don't even think there's a debate.
No.
And the reason for that is, and we've spoken about this many times on the pod, that kind of a player, the number 10, the fantasista, there's no room for it in Italia, in world football at all, unless it's a number 10 role that evolves and becomes yes, you can have fantastic skill and creativity and vision, but you also have to be a good presser, you have to play with high intensity and so on and so forth.
It's not just number 10s though, because I mean if I go back 20 between 20 to 30 years ago, just read out, if I go through the major nations and look at some of these superstars' names, right? Italy, Totti, Del Piero, Baggio, Vieri, Pirlo. And then if you want to look at superstar defenders that we had as well, Maldini, Cannavaro, Nesta, Buffon as a superstar goalie. Brazil, Romario, Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Cafu, Roberto Carlos, Ronaldinho, Kaká. Argentina, Batistuta, Riquelme, Veron, Ortega, Tevez, Redondo. France, Henry, Zidane, Papan, Vieira, Cantona, Ribéry. Holland, Bergkamp, Seedorf, Davids, Kluivert, Overmars, Van Nistelrooy. And if you want to go back to the early 90s, Milan, Rijkaard, Gullit, Van Basten.
For Argentina.
Yeah, Maradona for Argentina. If you want to go back a little bit further, Portugal, Figo, Rui Costa, Deco, Paulo Futre, the young Cristiano Ronaldo, not the old one now. Germany, Klinsmann, Mateus, Bremer, Volla, Zama, Molla, Kola, Ballack. Croatia, Suka, Boban, Prozinecki, Serbia, Savicevic, Stojkovic, Mijatovic. I mean, I'm just one after the other. Now, if you look at those same big nations I've gone through, and you tell me, pick out your superstar. Who's your superstar for Italy right now? Well, there isn't one. Who's your superstar from Brazil?
There isn't one.
Maybe Vini Jr. That's it. That's your only superstar. Argentina. Who's your superstar from Argentina? Messi, who's 36 years old. France. Mbappe, maybe. That's their one superstar from France. Holland, they don't have a superstar. Portugal, I mean, they've got some quality. They do have some quality, but I don't know if I don't think they've got a world-beating superstar. Germany, where's their superstar? Maybe Musiala could maybe be one. Croatia, Serbia, where are their superstars? So, the superstar names, they're just not there. There's so few players that you would actually describe as a superstar, whether they are a number 10, like you said, or whether they're a winger, or whether they're a midfielder, or whether they're even like a superstar defender, like a Maldini, or a superstar goalkeeper, like a Buffon. I mean, there isn't superstars in the game. And in addition to that, Nima, where are the attackers now? This was the worst. I mean, we can debate over whether this was the worst tournament in history. For me, there's no debate at all that this is the worst tournament in history for attackers and strikers.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And this is the result of this kind of robotic false nine, and you have to be able to do this, that, and the other. And Pep, and it's, everyone has wanted to follow suit. And I think that has cost. I mean, look at it. You got Haaland, Mbappe is not really a number 9. Osimhen, you had Lukaku for 2 years. Kane, who else have you got? I mean, there's nothing there.
Well, the top scorer in the Euros scored 3 goals.
I mean, does that not tell you everything you need to know?
Yeah.
That there is no, like I said, the individual skill has gone down. Decline has been off a cliff. It's been off the Grand Canyon. And it's been really, really sad to see. I think, but we've seen that trend at club level too. It's not just international football. We've been saying it for a couple of years now that club level now they're better trained. They're better. The medical advances are better than ever before. There's this whole sports science that at a level that's never been
They're
as good as
fitter.
this.
Yeah.
They're fitter. They're better trained. Psychology is developed really well. All of that.
Planning as well, preparing against opponents, what they're going to do, knowing what they're going to do.
Tactical astuteness has improved by everyone. Overall, has been improved, but the skill is lower than at any point in my lifetime. I really believe that. I think on an individual level,
there's no individual difference makers now.
No.
Like you players that you
killed them. Yeah. And I mean, what we're saying is what we're saying. Bielsa says, Ronaldinho says, Cafu says, all of them say that.
Yeah.
Essentially, that there are no football's been killed. There are no individual. Everyone is they're system players. They're robots that know how to read the game and interpret instructions and run movements between the lines and blah 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 blah.
And the dribblers as well. Like, where are the dribblers? I mean, that's why I was so happy that Spain won the Euros, because Spain are probably the exception. They actually have two wingers that dribble and take on their players and try and eliminate their men. But how many teams have these players now? Not just international football, even at club football. Where are the players that beat their man, that dribble past their man? Again, in the past, some of those players that I mentioned, Baggio, Del Piero, Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo, Overmars, Figo, Futre, Savicevic. I mean, these players, they would take on their men, they would beat them. No one takes on the goalkeeper anymore. This drives me mad. You get a one-on-one with the goalkeeper nowadays. No one takes on the goalkeeper ever. Whoever takes on the goalkeeper, in the past, the best players in the world would dribble past the goalkeeper. Baggio, Ronaldo, Careca. These players would go past the goalkeeper. I remember when I used to play, if I was one-on-one with the goalkeeper, when I was one-on-one with the goalkeeper, right? And I'm not comparing myself to any of these players, but when I was one-on-one with the goalkeeper, I would almost feel like if I didn't try and take on the goalkeeper, that made me a lesser player. That was my thinking, because it was kind of thought that the best players, they take on the goalkeeper. Nowadays, no one even thinks to dribble past the keeper. They all do the same thing. They think they slide it past the keeper, or they try and dink it over him. That's all they do, and it's just like, where is the skill? Where is the magic? The creativity? No one does through balls anymore. No one does chip through balls anymore. I know, those are extinct from the game. No one chips or lobs the goalkeeper anymore. When do you ever get people from? When I say chips, I mean like chips from outside the area, where like Totti's Cuccaio against Peruzzi, that's against Inter. I can't remember the goalkeeper. Cesar. Was it Julio Cesar? Yeah, like that, or the one he did against Peruzzi. Those kind of goals. Or Glenn Hoddle once did a famous one against Watford. Put that on YouTube. But you don't see those, because I know the balls are a big reason for that. The plastic synthetic balls that they don't get up and down like the older balls do. But these kind of pieces of technical beauty, we're talking about quality in the game and beauty in the game. These things have been removed, and that's what made football so amazing and enjoyable as when we were in the past, because we got these moments of magic in games and we just don't get
difference makers when things were locked. The ones that took the game by the scruff of the neck and made the difference, dribbled past 2-3 players, created something out of nothing. And that's kind of gone missing a lot in football. It's exactly like what's happened in ice hockey, and that's why it's just boring. I've almost stopped watching ice hockey completely. It literally is like watching robots skate around. It's not fun, and that's what's happening with football as well. And I think that I hope that this is something that players that the powers that be in the different federations understand. And
I think it's all become very Nima. It's all become like you're saying about the preparation. It's all become so analytical, using analytics, using stats, things like XG, working out the probability of doing this and doing
risk
that.
Minimization.
Yeah, exactly.
Data.
So, for example, long range shooting. I remember getting quite excited in the first week of this tournament, because we actually got quite a few long range goals, and I was like, wow, we don't see long range goals anymore. And then that all stopped soon after that. We stopped getting any long range. I think the Yamal one in the semi final was. But I mean, these are rare exceptions now. like generally, if you look over football in the last 10 years, we just don't get long range goals anymore like we did in the past. Players are shooting. I mean, where are the free kick experts today? Where are they? Name me. Who's a free kick expert in football nowadays that regularly scores free kicks from outside the area? Even the ones that you think are good, like maybe a Çalhanoğlu or Di Marco, if we're talking about Serie A.
He's horrible. He used to be good, but he's absolutely dreadful.
I know, but those are the ones that maybe might come to mind. Actually look at their stats and how many goals they've scored from free kicks. I mean, it's pathetic.
I don't think he scored quite a few, Çalhanoğlu, but he hasn't done it in the last 5 years.
That's what I mean. I mean, where are the free kick experts today? There's basically none. When we were growing up and we had so many, geniuses from free kicks, Mihajlovic, Koeman, Del Piero, Pirlo, Juninho, the Brazilian Juninho from
probably
Lyon.
The best of them all, Juninho.
I mean, and him and Mihajlovic for me. I mean, Zico. I mean, where are they?
Stoichkov's free kicks were magical too.
Oh yeah. I mean, where are they nowadays?
I think a
reason for that, Nima, is like we were saying about the risk minute that they look at the numbers of, and I've spoken to coaches about this, that they look at the XG, the probability of scoring a long range goal is so small that they're basically, players are told not to shoot from long range anymore because
that's what I mean. Like everything, that's exactly the point. That thing, they've sacrificed. Like everything. Science is good when it's used properly. Here, it's an issue of using data to minimize, to be like, okay, well, the probability of scoring there is so low, let's not even do it. Which I think is silly because it has also removed skill from the game, individual skill and quality. And I think it sucks the joy out of it too, because if you remember what was fun about football, it was the individual skill. Yes, there was system, there were tactics, there were lineups, all of that I loved, and I'm sure many listening did too. But at the end of the day, you still marveled at the artists,
Absolutely. And I don't think it necessarily proves more successful anyway. I mean, I think that, and that's also another reason why I'm glad England didn't win it and that Spain did win it, because that would have been a victory for this type of way of playing football because that is Southgate. He's completely based on analytics and science and this risk minimization, that we've got to do this, and that by playing in this kind of, Deschamps is the same for France as well, that playing in this way gives us a better chance of going all the way. Like you said, I mean, there's better science, there's better nutrition, there's better professionalism, but definitely not better preparation as well. I think one thing that we can say is better is the smaller teams are better.
No, of course. Look, the overall level, I think there are more quality footballers today overall in total than there were 20, 30 years ago, but the technical individual level has dropped. Like it's two separate things. There are the number of good footballers today grossly outweigh the ones that existed 20 years ago.
Yeah, the gap there's not a big gap between the elite but
the individual skill at the very top has fallen off a cliff of the players at the very top, and I think it's a bit sad. But I also think that it goes in. I think everything goes in cycles, really, and I think that with because of the fact that international football the quality is lower, it's only natural that a Deschamps and a Southgate want to risk minimize and say, well, we can actually get to a final. We can win if we get, do you know what I mean?
I agree. I do agree with that. But at the same time, I think two things can be true at the same time. I do think that it is, because I see people saying this a lot. Club football is better than international football and all this. I think that is partly true, but it's also false, because I think that there's an illusion that club football is better than it is, because nowadays in 2024, and it has been the case for the last 10 to 15 years, the biggest clubs, the super clubs, the Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern, Juventus, Inter, or the big Premier League clubs now, let's say PSG, they monopolize all the best players in the world, not just in their teams, but in their squads. And to such an extent that when you get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, you see this, it's amazing. The football is incredible. You've got all the best players in the world basically playing for these 8 teams. And the level is very, very high because you've got all the best players. But actually, if you go further down, then you look at the teams that are in the domestic leagues from, 5th or 6th down into the mid-table and down to the relegation teams. These teams are much, much weaker because they don't have any of the best players. Whereas 20, 30, 40 years ago, all the best players in the world were spread over all teams in all leagues. They weren't condensed within just a small group of players. And that's why international football, for me, is the true litmus test for how strong football really is. And when you compare the international teams, the level of players for the international teams today to the same top international teams from 20, 30, 40 years ago, it's then that you realise just how much football has dropped off, because you then do the whole, well, how many of the Italy team would have got into the Italy team 20 years ago? How many of this Holland team would have got into the Holland team 20 years? And then you suddenly realise, well, actually, not many of them, if any of them, would get into them. So that's where club football is actually an illusion. It's because all the best players are monopolised by 8 to 10 teams around Europe that everybody thinks, oh, it's amazing. But it's only amazing from the Champions League quarterfinals onwards. It's not amazing anywhere else. You know what I mean? So I think that is where we really are.
But I think, look, I think that's true. I think, but then again, at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters for the growth of the game at international level, because the people who don't care about club football tune in when it's international football, and they will always do that. We've seen this, whether every time it's a Euros or a Copa America or World Cup or a Asian Cup or whatever, people, the casuals turn in and tune in. So I don't see a worry for the interest there. But I do have concerns for the interest at club level. I do, because it's like you said, it only gets good from the quarter semi-finals onwards in the Champions League. 1 or 2 games, maybe in 3 games, 4 games in the Premier League in the entire calendar.
Yeah.
And other than that, it's just a long transport from September to May.
Yeah.
In between that, and that's that, and again, and that's again, and that, the decline in individual quality accentuates that even more. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But for international football, I'm not worried, because I don't watch international football to watch the best, like for the quality. I watch it because they're the stories. I think the stories are more interesting. The national stories of each club, of each player, of each country, qualifying for the first time. These sagas.
Yeah, and it's a festival, isn't it?
It's a festival, exactly. Yeah. It makes everyone happy. People come together. They, from all walks of life. They, they meet up, and it's a story. I remember growing up. I mean, the thing that I was fascinating. I've learned so much as a kid from collecting these Panini sticker books and learning different names and learning about different places and clubs and cities and different countries all over the world. And, I fell in love with Uruguay in 1990. I didn't know anything about Uruguay until 1990. Do you know what I mean? Like that World Cup, Uruguay stole my heart. And I started, I fell in love with them and those stories. That's the kind of thing that I think is beautiful about the World Cup, Copa America, Euros, and so on. But so that will never really disappear. But I do think that then football needs to start. Don't copy Spain, but return to trying to develop technically skillful players. Allow children to dribble. There's a balance between only dribbling and never dribbling. Do you know what I mean?
I agree,
have the decision making. That doesn't have to be so extreme. And because that's the thing.
It's always all or nothing, isn't it? It's always
everything's so. But everyone's so bipolar in their decision making. It's either this or that. It's like, no, it doesn't need to be like that. There's you can't strike a balance of that. And what I used to love about Italian football at an international level was exactly that. You had fantastic, skillful individual players. And you had players, and you had the coaches who were the smartest and played with their brains. That's what I want to a little bit get back to. That's what I like. That's what I love. The balance.
Yeah.
So but we'll see. I mean, I tweeted out yesterday. Look, that Spain won the Euros because they were the best team. They deservedly won. There's no doubt about that. But I really hope that Italy don't start copying them or anyone else start copying.
But I think what's good about this Spain team is that they weren't the classic Spain. They did have that direct. They had a bit of everything. Like you said, that they do still have that. They could still, dominate possession as they did in the final if they want to. But they also have that direct nature with the wingers. Yeah. But they also showed that they were good defensively. They improved defensively as the tournament went on, and they also were strong mentally as well. They conceded that goal to England, and they still came back and they dominated the rest of the game and won the game. So I think in that way, there's maybe more to copy off this Spain than like you said, doing all or nothing as many teams did. When Spain were dominant before, and everybody just tried to copy them and copy Pep, which has partly led to. I'm not going to blame it all on Pep. I know I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's all Pep's fault that football it's all Pep's fault." But when everybody plays the same way, everybody tries. And I actually think that was something that England tried to do yesterday. That they just decided, look, we're not going to try and play out of the press in the first half. We're just going to hump it long and try and play for the second balls and try and play off. Which, okay, it's awful to watch. It's like 1980s Sunday League football from Bedford, but it kind of like, in a way, it kind of was sort of half effective in the first half for a way. So, but I think that the lesson from that is that there are other ways of playing football.
Exactly.
There are other ways of playing football, and it would be nice to see a bit more diversity in football.
Different styles, different ideologies clashing. That's the beauty of it. I remember Scolari in Euro 2004 when Greece won. Before the final, everyone was moaning about Greece playing defensive football, and Scolari said it best. He said, "Look, there's no if they play defensive, tight football." Then it's up to us, the so-called attacking teams, to unlock them.
Yeah, but that's only going to happen if footballers develop and emerge from the youth to the seniors that have these attributes and qualities to do all this stuff that it seemingly none of them can do anymore. Otherwise, it will just be everyone playing the same way, which is what's happening at the moment. And then you get Spain, who are the best at it.
Well, that's exactly what I mean, and that's another aspect why I didn't want Spain to win. Is the last 2.5 decades across club and country level, 23 finals Spanish teams or national teams have been in, and they've won all 23.
That's insane.
That's a dominance that is not healthy for the game. Like, it's fantastic. Let's praise Spain.
Seems almost impossible, that stat.
Yeah, it's mental, and it's like 23 finals won. That's a level of dominance that is just not healthy for the game. And having, and England is a traditionally big country, footballing country with a long history, and they, had they won the Euros, I think it would have been good for the game. New blood, freshen open the windows a little bit. Do you know what I mean? It's just watching Spain win now their 4th Euros is just 3 in the last 16 years.
Yeah,
it's just.
Although it is their first. To be fair, it is their first tournament won in 12 years. So
since 2008, they've won 3 Euros.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's been a period. It's been a great period, not just for Spanish football, Spanish sport.
Well. It has.
I mean, Alcaraz won Wimbledon. It was a great day for Spanish sport. Yesterday, he destroyed Djokovic. Absolutely sure. Just final question before we move on to club football. Again, I've seen some people try to explain this. I'm not sure I agree, but I do agree that it is a problem that needs to be looked at. Too much football. There is too much football. And as a result, some of these players have gone to this tournament exhausted, especially the top players. Harry Kane, I think, is a good example. I'm a big fan. I'm a huge fan of Harry Kane. Out of all of those players, I criticise Rice. I've said he's overrated. I've said Bellingham, I think, is a little bit overrated for what he actually does. Foden's never done anything. Harry Kane is somebody that I always believe is an absolutely world-class player. He had a horrendous tournament. I don't think he was fit. He just looked
burnt out.
Yeah, he looked burnt out. Yeah.
And it's like Barella too. Like, you remember, what's his name? Was it Pedri? Who when he was
70 games, yeah.
Yeah, 70 games. Like, this is insane. That's too many games. It's way too many games.
And next summer we have the Club World Cup, which will take place into July. So that will mean.
Do they not understand that? I mean, it's. I get that I get money, but for goodness sakes,
No, Bellingham said it as well. Actually, at the end of the game, he said that we played too many games. But the issue I have is that we're going to go into the 2024 World Cup basically having played the Club World Cup in 2025, the Euros in 2024. We then had the mid-season World Cup in the 2022-23 season, and then we had the Euros obviously in 2021 because it was pushed a year back. But then also the season before that in 2020, we had a summer Champions League and summer leagues going because of the pandemic. So basically, since 2020 until 2020 and including 2026, we basically had football every single summer. What does everybody expect is going to happen in 2026?
Well, of course, they're human beings.
In 30 degrees heat. It's going to be searing heat as well. So
yeah,
I'm just saying, yeah.
and I'm got to be honest. The absolute scandalous scenes that we've seen from Copa America.
Oh gosh,
the United States needs to get its shit together. That is not going to work.
That's shocking. Yeah. Well, usually UEFA and FIFA reward bad organisation and bad behaviour.
I've spoken to journalists who've covered the game. It's been they say it's been chaos in Miami. Like it's been absolute chaos, and they were expecting it to be chaotic.
It was like the opening scene from Scarface when they're all in the refugee camp, and Tony Montana is what did he get? He got the knife and he went and stabbed someone, didn't he? Or was it somebody else that did the stabbing? Like, it was like that. It was
crazy.
Did you see
children crying?
Did you see the fans
crawling? No one in their places. Fans attacking players' wives and children. Come
Did you
on.
see the fans crawling through the air vents?
It's like what the hell's going on?
It was like blooming Die Hard with
Bruce
Willis going through the air vents.
It's insane. Like, what the hell's going on? No, they need to. I don't know what. I know CONMEBOL were the well, it was their tournament, but
shocking.
But it was still in the United States, and they needed to do.
The Americans are going to save us, eh? This is who the saviors of Serie A, guys.
No, it's not. It was really, really bad, man. It was really, really bad. It was shocking scenes, and it was not good. It did not fill me up with confidence at all. And now we've before 2 years now until that World Cup. Mexico, Canada, and the United States. Please draw the right lessons from this, so that we don't go into that tournament with a tragedy.
No,
because it could happen. Like I don't want to see people being crushed to death at football games. Like never again.
Well, it wasn't a good weekend in America for security, let's say. And that brings us on nicely to Marco Violi gate. Nima.
Do you want to talk about that now?
Let's talk about that now, because we've got a nice little segue there. So let's talk about Marco Violi gate. This is, in all my years of covering Italian football, I have never seen a more insane story than this, and there has been many insane stories in Italian football over the years. This is definitely the most insane story. So I'm going to let Nima take it away. Can you just explain exactly what happened, starting from obviously what happened with Donald Trump, and then explain what happened next?
Well, we all saw that he was shot at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania, but this really should not. I mean, I can't believe that this. So, okay. There's an account. There's a troll account, a Roma Twitter troll account called Mussolinio. Okay, which is he's married together Mourinho with Mussolini. It's a complete troll account. And all he does is, make fun of Italian football and Roma and Lazio and everyone. And of course, those of you who've listened to this show from the beginning, we did an episode about Violi because he was harassing John Solano at the time. Really, really harassing. And we went into the details of who Marco Violi is. It's on our Patreon. We back then when Violi Nation went viral on Spaces. And we thought that was like the weirdest.
Just to those that haven't seen that, who is Marco Violi?
Marco Violi was a journalist. Early, I think it was somewhere around the late 2000s, 2010s. a Roma journalist, very good, very successful, ran a site that was very successful. But he had a mental episode, an actual mental episode, and he started stalking a woman who he was working with. And according to the reports at the time, it was one of the worst stalking recorded events of stalking ever. But he is ill. He's mentally ill. He's he's talked about it himself, about the heavy medication that he is on. And so he has severe delusions of grandeur. And he started picking fights with John, insulting him, his family, his mother, his grandmother, his aunt, like all of these. Like
that's our former podcast co-host, John Solano.
Yeah, John Solano, who runs Roma Press, right?
Yeah.
And he insulted him and harassed him with making songs about him, doing covers of favorites.
I love those songs as well. They're amazing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. They are catchy. I'm sorry, but they are. But they are very, very rude. He made a song about one guy, which is called "Grande Figlio di Puttana." I mean,
Well, it's one about John was the most famous as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Solano.
Yeah, chucciamelo un po', which is very, very rude. It's basically telling someone to suck you off. I mean, that's the kind of guy we're talking about here. He's very, but the songs are completely crazy. He can't sing, so he does these covers of really famous songs. Where sometimes it's football related. Sometimes it's just people who he thinks are harassing him and
they've become a sensation because on that Spaces that you said, Fedez, the famous Italian pop singer.
Oh, Berrettini was like, what's her name? Sara, the female tennis player.
Irani,
yeah, she was there. Everyone was there. Everyone was like, that's when we did the episode, because it went completely viral. It was the most listened to space ever for a short period. This guy Mussolini, then he's the one who put it up, created it, and all these songs one after another, and his mental breakdowns on WhatsApp, where he tells people that he's faked his own death about 2-3 times, pretends that he's died and returned back magically. He's lied that his mother has died and then she comes back to life again repeatedly, because he wants sympathy. Like, we were talking about a mentally ill person, right? So
this is the person.
This is the person, and so Mussolini, this account, as for the third time, every time there's a terrorist attack, basically what he wants to do is to prove that with this culture, I think, you can fool anyone with anything as long as you tweet it out, and no one will fact check it. And it's the third time there's been a horrible event. The first time, which absolutely ended me, was when he took a photo of Violi, and which he published online. And it was the worst Photoshop job I have ever seen in my life, with him wearing some sort of a traditional Arab garb, just glued on his head whilst he's got a Roma shirt on, and said, and tweeted out, said, the terrorist that did it was Marek Alviol. And they always joke with his name, like Mark Purples was another time that they came up with it. And this time he tweeted out a photo from a screenshot from one of his videos on YouTube, saying that the shooter was an Antifa member named Mark Violets or something. This is then picked up. Okay, this is where it gets actually pretty gross, because he does that. It's retweeted because everyone in Calcio Twitter knows it's a joke, right? And I mean everyone, English-speaking Calcio Twitter, Swedish-speaking Calcio, everybody knows about this joke. It's on Italian football Twitter, regardless of language, everybody knows that this is a joke, right? This is the running joke. So, but what happens is that this big political account, conservative account in the United States, picks it up, quote tweets it as fact.
Who was that? Which account was it?
Wall Street something.
Silver or something, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. He does it, and then Dave Rubin quote tweets that, and then Simon Atuba, I think his name is, the White House correspondent. I mean, it's just, are you serious? It's just,
And doesn't stop there, because then all the TV stations start running with it, and you have Marco Violi's face like on your TV screen. The shooter.
And the funny thing is, they can't. Simon Ateba is his name. And he says, breaking: Mark Violets, who uploaded a YouTube video saying justice was coming, identified as Trump shooter. That's complete nonsense. That never happened. The police never said that, and we know they never said that, because why would they say that? The whole thing was invented by a troll account.
Oh my god!
It's just insane. And then you see these, and whilst the police are actually giving actual information to people, these people are just going on. It's a photo on Mexican TV. I've seen it on Chilean TV. I've seen it on some American conservative network. Like, it's just absolutely insane. And so, then, CNN, I think there were NBC, CNN, some other, outlets were like, stop it. Like, this is wrong. Like, there's no, like, no, stop. Do you know what I mean? Like, and the story just gets, it just goes on. I've seen it on Euronews. I've seen it in La Repubblica.
Corriere della Sera.
Corriere della Sera. Yeah. Like, everyone is talking about this now because of the fact that a few people, because look, they've exposed themselves here. I think the broader point here is exactly this. If you're a journalist and you just pass off other people's information without fact checking it, you're going to expose yourself as an idiot on an international scale, and you're going to blow all your credibility out of the water, as all of these people I've mentioned have done. Because there was it is an absolute lie that anyone working for any government official that was investigating this situation spoke of anyone called Mark Violets. Like, it just did not happen. What it was an internet rumor given legs by people who claim they're journalists, but essentially are nothing more than just influencers. That's all they are. And they don't even bother with the slightest bit of care and skill. And I think at this point, he might have a case legally to sue these people.
Well, I think he already said he's going to, didn't he? He put out
I think he should, because it's one thing if a troll account on Twitter tweets something out. It's a completely different animal when actual news stations, without fact checking, start reporting this as fact. It's insane. And he's
definitely got a case. Definitely got a case. If you remember, if we're using a football example equivalent, just think of Marco Materazzi in the 2006 World Cup with Zinedine Zidane. That they reported what he supposedly said, and he went and sued multiple media outlets and won. So I think this is much more serious. They're calling him
an assassin of a presidential candidate. It's absolutely. He's in Rome. He's not even he's on the other side of the world, sleeping at 2 a.m. It's insane. Like, the reason why we're laughing is because this is so insane.
I love it, and also the best was I saw some people putting out. There was a video that Marco Violi did a few years ago where he's kind of. He's simulating shooting a gun, and kind of does this.
Yeah,
pump, 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 pump,
yeah.
pump.
Yeah, that's when he was talking like he was a gangster. That's the photo he used, like of the sunglasses and wearing some hat like inside, and again, we're talking about someone who himself has published on his website that the medicine.
Well, that's where it's also a serious side to it, because this is the kind of thing where if somebody is unstable and vulnerable, that something like this can push someone over the edge. Depending on the person, everyone's different how they handle with these kind of things. But can you imagine? Can you imagine if you just 2 o'clock in the morning, which is he said, you just should, you wake up in the middle of the night, you check your phone, and you see Nima Tavali, you see your face all over social media. The assassin.
I'll tell you what. Well, my reaction to that is I would have loved it, because I would have been laughing all the way to the bank. I would have been very, very calm. I would have just collected, recorded everything, and then contacted a lawyer, and I would have sued the shit out of everyone. Like, with that, like, for me, that would be payday. So by all means, go right ahead. Like that, I have no problem suing for defamation and libel. Absolutely none.
Yeah.
So, I would have been pretty
cool. But the
cool
biggest
about
takeaway to take from this,
but I do want to say is what I do feel bad for him is because they are a family with mental health issues. They've gone through some difficult things. He is not the nicest person on earth. Absolutely, he's not. He does harass people. He stalked a woman to the point where, I mean, as I said, the newspaper report I read said one of the worst instances of recorded stalking ever. He is unhinged, but he's also a human being, and to have his name plastered like this,
it's insane. I've never come across a story like this. Like the number of failings across from start to finish on this is. I mean, again, rest in peace, journalism. If anybody thought that journalism actually still existed,
mainstream journalism for sure, it's dead.
I think
it's completely dead. It's completely dead. It's just rumors on social media. It's just interaction farming on social media, and I think at this point, I'm switching over to. I really think that social media platforms should take more responsibility when it comes to these events, because people's lives, like, it's one thing that the journalist tweets it out, but the platform itself should also be forced to take responsibility, because, again, this is a man with a history of mental illness, sleeping at 2 a.m., having his name dragged through the mud globally without having done anything.
Calcio, the final takeaway on this, Nima, is that Calcio's Twitter is undefeated, and Calcio in general. This is the reason why, and I know, maybe we shouldn't joke about it as much as we have, but because there's a serious side to it. But if there's a reason why Italian football will always be popular, even when Italian football is in the state that it's in, that we have no money, the clubs and the league are run by idiots, and we've just had the worst performance by the national team, maybe ever in a tournament. Why people will still love it and watch it and listen to our podcast and others, that because this is the kind of stories you're going to get.
It's genuinely, in my 12, 13 years in general, I have never heard of such an insane story as this Marco Violi thing. And just when I think that it reaches the summit, that we've reached peak madness here, something happens that propels it into the next sphere. It's like,
it is insane. It's insane. Let's before we finish off, let's just talk about a couple of club matters. First of all, Ciro Immobile, we have to honour him. He leaves Lazio 8 years to join Besiktas. What an amazing legacy for Immobile at Lazio.
All-time top scorer of the club, 3-time Capocannoniere winner, 1 European Golden Shoe winner, equaled the record with Higuain, I think, and someone else whose name eludes me from back when, 36 goals in one season. Look, he scored over 200 goals.
One of only 8 players to score over 200 goals in Serie A.
I've always said about him, and I will always say that I think he's unlucky to have been born in the era he was born in, because had he been born some 5-10 years earlier, he would have been playing for all the big clubs. The problem is that as we kind of come full circle now, what we've spoken about, the death of strikers. Ciro Immobile is technically actually pretty good. He's a fantastic finisher, and had he played some years earlier, he would have played for the Inters and Milans and Juves and would have won far, far more. The problem was the era that he played in was false 9, sole number 9, and he just wasn't that player. He just was not able to do very well playing as a sole striker. But playing off of players in a system where he had a support behind him or in a 2-man attack, I mean, the numbers speak. They speak for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. He will go down as one of the greatest Lazio players of all time, no doubt about it. He did. I think it is the right time though for the divorce to happen. He's 34 now. He did start to show his age last season. I think he said that himself. His quotes when he left. It was a choice made with serenity. Stories have a beginning and an end. It was right. It's no one's fault. I hope it's not goodbye. So I think it was the right time. The question will always be, away from Lazio, does he deserve more respect from Serie A and Italian fans in general? Probably on a club level, yes. One of only 8 players to score over 200 Serie A goals. Of course, the level of Lazio isn't the level of one of the big 3, let's say. So there's that. And also, he never was great for Italy. But having said that, though, he did win Euro 2020 without playing particularly well in that tournament. But look at the Italy forwards since have they been any better than him? It's not like.
And if you look at that Pescara team, Zeman's Pescara team, he's the last of those 3, the Insignes, the Verratti, and Immobile. That amazing Serie B team in Pescara.
End of an era, yeah.
Yeah, it's an end of an era. I mean, that one of the best Serie B teams to have ever played under Zeman, and the amount of goals they scored and the brilliance that they showed.
Oh yeah, and developing those 3 players who
then now he's the last of the guard, isn't he? I mean, for all intents and purposes, Verratti and Insigne have essentially retired. Immobile is the last one, and he goes to Besiktas, and Turkish football is fantastically brilliant. I mean, he's from Naples himself. He's played for, he's won 4 Capocannonieri playing for Lazio and Torino, which is unbelievably impressive. And I think he's just one of 2, together with Paolo Rossi, to have been top goal scorer in Serie B, Serie A, and Serie C, I think. Or it's something like
I think I remember it. Yeah, I think I remember that as well.
Which is also, again, speaks of the consistency of goal scoring in his career. And as we spoke about, the death of the number 9, well, the fact that Ciro Immobile could not have a top-level career further shows the problem of strikers and attacking, and attackers in top-level football. But yeah, I mean, I think Lazio should have probably let him go a year ago when they sold Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, when they had a huge offer. I think they hung on to him a little bit too long. But look, it's Ciro. He's the captain. He's a talisman. And what he means to Lazio fans is, I mean, I don't know if you saw that beautiful video at the airport, which I retweeted. There was a Lazio fan who was absolutely devastated that he was leaving. He was in tears, and they were hugging, and it was very, very beautiful.
Yeah, it was. It'll be interesting to see who they replace him with as their main number 9 next season. Whether they sign someone to be the main number 9, whether it's Castellanos, whether it's good, because he will take. It will be a big, some big shoes to fill. Absolutely. So that's another reason why it's going to be very difficult for Lazio next season. Talking about eras, Milan. Alvaro Morata, fresh from captain. He was the captain, wasn't he? He was the captain of the Spain national team. Yeah, captain in Spain to the Euros. It looks like he is set to join Milan. We're recording this on Monday. As we're recording this, most of the main sources are confident that he is going to join Milan. 4-year contract. Milan will probably pay the release clause in his Atletico Madrid contract, 13 million. Medical probably this week. Zlatan and Monsada were in the crowd, actually, in the final. So it looks like Morata is going to join Milan. Interesting one, whether this is a good signing. I think he is a very underrated. I think he has been a very underrated player. If you take away his Chelsea spell, which was bad, apart from that, I think he has had a very underrated career. I think his strength is that he makes those around him play better, especially the wingers, which we saw, of course, during the Euros for Spain. He drops deep, he links the play, he's got good movement, he's good in the air. He's 31. He's going to turn 32 later this year, but he is still playing well. He had a brilliant first half to last season. Then he did have a fantastic Euros. Generally, he's not that prolific, but I think what he will do is he will make Leao and Pulisic better. I think that's the positive for Milan from this move.
Like, that's what people are getting all upset. Oh, Morata. Look, listen, he's not being brought in to score 30 goals. He's being brought in to help Leao and Pulisic score 20, 25 goals each. Like, that's what he's doing. And I think he's incredibly underrated. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's an intelligent player. He's technically very, very good. His read of the game, and exactly like you said, being able to make those around him better, putting them into goal-scoring positions. Leao, if he can unlock Leao and help unlock his full potential, that's a lot won for Milan right there. Mm-hmm. And we saw what Pulisic can do as well when he's in a team, that system that works. So no, he has so much experience from the biggest clubs in the world. I think we can call that now the Milan model. The number 9 at Milan is supposed to be someone who's a little bit of a senator, a little bit older, and to guide the young guns.
Yeah, my only yeah, I agree, and he also loves Italy. His wife's Italian. He won't take any time to settle. He'll be straight into it. My only doubts over this is, like I said, he's going to turn 32 later this year. You can age quickly. I know at Milan the strikers have generally aged quite well. If you look at Giroud, Zlatan, so Milan will be hoping that's the same for Morata. But you're given a 4-year contract to someone who's going to turn 32 on quite high wages. It's a little bit of a risk from that sense. Whereas you sign Zirkzee, which was Milan's first choice, it looked like that was certainly going to be done. And for what is quite very much, if you remove the commission, which is another talking point we'll come to, but 40 million, and you're getting a 22-year-old. In terms of the long-term project for Milan, you're looking at a team that can be together and really build together. Whereas Morata, you can't do that. So I think still, despite praising Morata, I still think that probably Zirkzee, it could end up being a regret for Milan not getting him. We'll come on to that in a minute. But in terms of Morata in general, I think it's I think he's been very underrated, and I think he can do well, and I think that Milan's transfer market is shaping up now, because they're in talks to sign Fofana from Monaco. They've agreed to personal terms with the Serbian centre-back Strahinja Pavlovic, who there is not a scarier centre-back in Europe in terms of just looking at him than Pavlovic. He's like do you remember Trifon Ivanov?
Yes, Trifon, Bulgarian.
The Bulgarian who was scary to look at. That's Pavlovic. He's scary to look at. He's a mean SOB, as you would call him. And, so we'll see. There's still work to do on that deal. I think Chelsea are interested as well. And then they're looking for a right back as well. Talks are continuing.
He looks like a bouncer at a nightclub, like a scary bouncer.
That's definitely taken a few punches, and dished out even more.
Dished out even more, yeah. When I look at him, I think I automatically look at his waistline to see if he's hiding a pistol. That's the feeling I get from him.
Definitely.
But he's only 23, so. It's an interesting one. No, I think Milan's Mercato's shaping up well now, to be honest. And I think the fact that I think what Morata also provides is stability. They don't have to worry about someone coming and trying to buy Morata next summer.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
True,
So it kind of gives them some sort of stability. And I think that's a calculated risk that they prefer to take. And with Leao and Pulisic, it makes Milan's attack far more. If you remember, with Giroud and Zlatan, they didn't have any mobility up front at all. There was no dynamism at all because those players don't.
There is still at the moment with Morata, yeah. Currently, but the question is, when does that?
Yeah.
Does he become older, and that mobility starts to disappear? And when it does, then that's when it becomes a problem, especially if he's on a big wage and a contract. But we'll see. Just a point on Zirkzee, though, who was going to go to Milan. He has now joined Man United. That is now official. They've actually paid more than the 40 million release clause. It's reported that it could be between 42.5 to 46, and that Man United are paying more so that they can pay in instalments rather than all in one chunk. And of course, Bayern Munich get 50% of it. So 50% of the sell-on fee. So really, Bologna are not really making much, like just over 20 million, plus the bonuses. So it's not great for Bologna. To be honest, he's going to be a massive loss, isn't he?
And we'll have to wait and see what happens with Calafiori, because I've not seen anything happening there for a few days.
Yeah, Calafiori has been held up a little bit. at the moment. But if they lose Calafiori as well, they're also not going to make much on him. They're only going to make about 50% of that as well. So that's something that, with Bologna it makes it even bigger blow losing these players, because they're not really going to get much money from them to reinvest. Big loss for Serie A as well, I think, losing Zirkzee. If he'd have gone to Milan, we keep him in the Serie A. And
exactly. Same with Calafiori if he goes to Arsenal. I mean, it's
same, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit. The only difference, of course, being Calafiori is Italian, and that just that sting that hurts a little bit more. But but we knew this was going to happen to Bologna. This is their place in the food chain. The question is, can they find a Gasperini? Is Vincenzo Italiano? Can Vincenzo Italiano be their Gasperini, and they can build around him and his football, and then be able to sell but still maintain quality? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's what they will hope to be able to do, and we'll see if they can. But if anyone can do it, it's Sartori.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt about that. Just a final point on Zirkzee. Time will tell whether Milan made a mistake taking the moral stand on the commission. That's why they didn't sign him. They'd agreed to personal terms. They'd agreed on paying the release clause of 40 million. They took the moral stand of not wanting to pay the 15 million euro commission demanded by Zirkzee's agent, Kia Joorabchian. In the end, Man United actually only ended up paying 10 million in commission. They managed to negotiate that to pay less. So Milan, I don't know. My opinion is that if football is going to take a stand against these obscenely high commissions that agents are asking for, it needs to be collective. If only one team does it alone, like Milan have done here, and how Milan done, then really nothing is gained, and it's only that team that loses. And I think that's how I feel about Milan. I feel like they have taken a stand against the high commissions, a moral stand, but they're actually not going to gain anything out of this, because if everybody else is just going to continue paying these commissions, then nothing changes. So I feel like Milan are almost cutting off their nose to spite their face here, and they're missing out on a player that, like I said before, could have been a huge player for them for years potentially. And so we'll see. Time will tell. He could, like most Man United signings, flop there. So it might.
I don't know. But I mean, if they also get De Ligt, it's starting to shape up pretty nice for him, isn't it? Ten Hag. He's got his players.
Well, possibly, yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of De Ligt personally, to be honest.
No, but I mean, De Ligt was unbelievable for Ten Hag at Ajax.
Yeah, he was at Ajax. Yeah, but we will see. Let's finish off with Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. Okay, this is our first show in a couple of weeks, so we've got a couple that are left over. My one that I had was Luca Gotti. This is a story that's a little bit old now. It's a couple of weeks old, about how Lecce's transfer chief, Pantaleo Corvino, explained how he hired Gotti because it was Gotti who actually saved Corvino's life while they were staying in a hotel together. The hotel was caught fire and was burning down, and Gotti got Corvino out of the building to save his life. So he hired him as coach. So well done to Luca Gotti for saving Corvino's life and for getting a job as a result of it.
Yeah, and of course Roberto D'Aversa, the former Lecce's manager, was sacked because he tried to headbutt a Hellas Verona player.
Yeah,
as you do.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah,
but
not the craziest story this week in Italian football.
Yeah, but this is what I always say. Like, there's different. I always differentiate in crazy, like Italy, Greece, like Italian football, Greek football, Turkish football, Iranian football. It's old crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the kind of crazy where you appoint your horse as Secretary of State. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that kind of madness, like Roman Empire.
Caligula.
Yeah, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I differentiate. South American crazy is something else. It's what you saw in Copa America. People going through AC vents to get into a football game. Like, I differentiate the level of madness that exists on this loony bin known as planet Earth. And it's with this story, it doesn't even crack the like after Violi, Marco Violi.
Right, it's a great story though. It is a fantastic story.
It's a fantastic story, and it's very like it's almost a bit heartwarming, isn't it? Like he saved his life and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Premface, I mean, obviously, Marco Violi gate wins by a mile, but we've already spoken about that. We do have a couple of others. Joshua Zirkzee, not Joshua Zirkzee, Manchester United, who, upon announcing Joshua Zirkzee on their official website, misspelled his name. They called him Kirksey.
I remember West Ham did the same with Scamacca as well when they announced it.
Oh, yes, they did, didn't they? Yeah.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
I mean, of all the time, I mean, Jesus Christ, I mean, come on. Yeah, but it is. I mean, it's a mistake. And then Kunal had as well, Fox Sports. They put a headline ahead of the quarterfinal: Turkey without Demirol, as in the cream roll, as in the candy, not Demiral, but Demirol.
Good. Yeah, Alexi Lalas as well. I've seen
he's had
a lot of nominations. While this whole chaos was going on, which we'll come into with the Copa America, he was basically talking up American soccer and saying, "Don't anybody tell you that American soccer isn't great. Just look at this." And basically, this was all like everything. It was like the famous the image of the burning building,
nothing to see here.
Yeah, nothing to see here. Yeah,
I think it's from Naked Gun. I can't remember. Yeah, Leslie Nielsen. I think that's him. And of course, the Jose Enrique story is mad.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
involving Luca Gotti again. So Jose Enrique is now a football agent. He offered two of his players, including the Rangers player Todd Cantwell, to Luca Gotti, the Lecce coach. He tried to send him a message on Instagram, but he accidentally sent the message to the wrong Instagram account.
Just a random guy named Gotti.
Yeah, he sent it to somebody called Gotti. For some reason, he thought that was Luca Gotti. Surprised he didn't say it to John Gotti. And
this random dude on Calcio Twitter screenshot it and put it on Twitter, and it went viral.
Yeah, Pedersen was the other player. Marcus Pedersen. Yeah,
Marcus Pedersen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a crazy week. It's been a crazy couple of weeks.
Serie Ass of the week, Nima. First of all, Copa America final chaos. I mean,
all of it. The entire tournament has been an absolute madhouse in terms of organization. I've spoken to so many colleagues who've been like, it's been crazy. They weren't even like that. Some of the stuff was dangerous. Like they didn't even offer water to people, like journalists. They had to buy.
Wow.
In that heat in Miami, like that shit is just, and then the parking was a complete mess and people couldn't find it was absolute chaos. I've spoken to people who said it's the worst tournament they've ever covered. It's been absolute mega.
Yeah, some of the scenes were they made the Euro 2020 final at Wembley look like
yeah, but Uruguay players defending their families against the onslaught of Colombia fans and shit. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
In 2024, how do you not have better security? Like, come on.
Yeah, Darwin Núñez holding his fists. I mean, they were that was an image. And Bielsa's went
press conference.
Yeah, went absolutely ballistic. Wow.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can understand why. I mean, security for players and their families should be
insane.
Yeah.
Second Serie Ass of the week. I have to go AC Milan. Their collaboration with this guy, I show speed. Everybody knows what I think of this guy. I mean, if we're talking about the death of journalism before, I mean, if this guy, I show speed, is regarded as a celebrity, he's like the Kim Kardashian of I don't want to say sports media. Like, what is it? What is this guy? Basically,
he's just a YouTuber and streamer.
Yeah,
isn't he?
I mean, oh my god. What is? All the kids watching this listening to this? What is it about I Show Speed? Can someone like leave a comment and just explain like the attraction of I Show Speed? Why if you like I Show Speed? I hope that you're smart enough not to. Why? What do you like about I Show Speed? What is great about him? What is his talent? What is it about him? I don't get it. I cannot get it at all. And I like to think that I've got like an eye for talent, hopefully. I just do not get this guy at all. And I don't believe it's just because I'm getting older. This guy is just a stupid idiot. Well, anyway, he does this collaboration with Milan. It's just the most embarrassing, cringeworthy thing I've ever seen in my life. He's in a car or a taxi or something in the back of the car with Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and he's just that he's kind of asking Zlatan kind of random questions. But one of the questions he asks is, he starts playing a game, and the game is called "First One to Move is Gay." Right, that's the name of the game. He shouts it out. And then they're filming this, and the video that they put out of this Milan was about 3 minutes, maybe 3 minutes long. About 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes of it was literally just silence of Zlatan and I Show Speed just sitting there not moving, and then the video ends, and it's just like, what is this? Like, what is this? And that's before we get to the whole homophobia side of it, playing a game.
Yeah,
First one to move is gay.
Homophobic. I don't think it's homophobic. I think it's just childish. The whole thing is just childish. It's just unbelievably childish.
I mean, I'm not going to...
And all of it, like even when they were doing the thing they were doing too with the backflips, and it's just a circus. And to me, it's like, I'm going, okay, you want to reach Milan, going to reach a new younger audience by that. I don't know how many hundred or thousands of new Milan fans do you think were created by this circus that we saw? What it did was it gave this guy more credibility, and he got lots of views. But what kind of a new audience did Milan reach, and how sustainable is it? Do they actually think that they grew their brand by doing this collaboration with this guy?
No. That kind of...
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's just all so cringy, really. And it's like, how many people have watched it?
I mean, I'm biased a little bit because I just don't get this guy, and I just think he's a complete clown.
No, he is a clown.
Talentless clown.
There's no, this is who he is, and apparently, I can understand if children watch it, like small children, because he's so hysterical and he does crazy shit and backflips, and it's entertaining for kids. I get that, but I don't know why Milan are engaging with it. That's what I don't understand. I don't get why. Like, I can understand if, you have these podcasts that the Premier League do as well, don't you? With these guys who just sit there and shoot the shit and don't know what they're talking about. And Rory the Tory's there and says Pirlo's overrated and stuff like that. But, yeah, I mean, that's for that audience. Good luck with you. It is what it is. But this is circus. This is just a circus. And I don't understand what the point is. Oh, he's got 26 million subscribers on YouTube. Okay. How does this grow your brand? Do you reach a new audience? Do you find new fans that way? And how many of them do you do? Or is it just one of those things where you are on his channel, he gets a lot of views, that's it. Do you know what I mean? There's no long-term PR strategy at play here. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
No.
And I don't understand why Milan entertain it.
Yeah, and talking about own goals, commercial own goals, Roma. This is unbelievable. So Roma have ordered Adidas to withdraw a tracksuit design from sale and suspended their brand officer. This is as of 2 weeks ago, following an outcry from fans because it had the colours of their arch rivals Lazio. The tracksuit top had the Roma logo on, but otherwise had very little to suggest it represented the Giallorossi. This is from Football Italia, this story. Although the top part was in dark red, there was a white stripe, and the majority of the front was a light blue colours of city rivals Lazio. Fans were outraged, and their owners, the Friedkin Group, responded by ordering Adidas to remove the design from the sale. Corriere dello Sport report that the club are prepared to suspend or even sack Chief Commercial and Brand Officer Michael Wandell, who oversaw the project. He is the subject of disciplinary proceedings and could well be removed from the role. The tracksuit was not going to be worn by the players, but rather part of the collection for fans. You know how for years I've been saying Serie A Titanic life jackets. Couldn't sell a life jacket on the Titanic. Serie A clubs are so clueless. The league is so clueless. Everyone associated with Serie A is so clueless when it comes to marketing their league, their clubs, commercially useless. How is this even possible? You are Roma. Everybody that supports Roma hates Lazio. You do a piece of you do a tracksuit that's Lazio's colours.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've got no words.
It's so funny. It's so funny. Because it's so crazy. It's literally the only color they shouldn't have used.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's literally the only color they should have stayed away from. I remember back when Inter first had a deal with a Chinese potential investor, Moratti. He was, and he said in honor of that, that partnership, he allowed Inter's away kit to be red. But he was very, very keen on not allowing the black on the shirt to touch the red. And he said that when he like, do you know what I mean? Like there was actual communication and thought there, and it was actually one of the more like iconic Inter away shirts that we've had. But this is just so dumb. Literally the only color they should have stayed away from. And it's such an own goal too, because now that Lazio fans are going to rip the piss out of them at the next derby over this. I can already see the banners.
It's mad.
Like I can already see the banners.
But this is own goal. What's so crazy about it is this, like with all commercial campaigns that are generally always a disaster in Italy, it goes through so many different layers, so many different people, so many board meetings. This isn't just, you don't just turn up one day and someone goes, I've got this idea today, okay, yeah, let's do it, whack it out this afternoon. And it's not like that. This is something that takes days, weeks, months to put into process, and this is the CCO. This is the chief commercial officer. This guy's supposed
to... He's American, isn't he?
I would imagine so. Yeah, I would imagine so. It's an English-speaking name. So, I mean, this is somebody that's supposed to be like one of the top people in their field when it comes to, and they do this. I mean, what hope? What hope? There is no hope. There is no hope. If the chief commercial officer is coming out with this, then what hope is there? I mean, it's just. There's no hope for the league. There is no hope.
Oh God!
No hope.
The Americans are coming to save us.
Oh yeah, definitely coming to save us.
Yeah. Oh my God! No, it's a crazy story, and it's Roma. This is what I mean. Roma is the most entertaining club right now in all of Serie A. Whether it's their fan base, whether it's the club itself, Rome is cray. And it's never a dull moment in this league, and never a dull moment with Roma and Napoli. Napoli's been like, they've actually, surprisingly, it's off to a really good start, isn't it? Like Di Lorenzo's going to stay. He published that letter. Conte and him, everything's going well. It's actually smooth sailing right now. And Buongiorno's, done. So
yeah, absolutely right.
They're not. They've right now Roma are literally number one on the crazy list. Like when it comes to the madness Serie A, they are top of the league. Clear by 10 points.
They sure are. And there's a lot of competition. Let's leave it at that. Thank you everybody for listening. We will be back we're doing a Q&A episode later in the week. Probably Wednesday or Thursday, and then we will also have, we're just confirming it, we'll also have another of our club transfer mercato deep dives like we did for Juventus last week, which if you haven't listened to, give it a listen, where we go through all the transfer activity that is being planned and is being done, both in terms of incoming and outgoing players between now and the end of the summer transfer window. So we'll have another club this week, which we will push out during this week. Okay, have a great week, everybody. See you soon. Ciao, ciao.